Punnett squares. But we need to move on and talk about another tool that's sometimes used in studying genetics, and it's called a pedigree chart. It's really nothing complicated. It's kind of like a family tree that shows people's or organisms' relationship, but also whether or not they have certain traits, certain characteristics. So we'll talk about how we use the pedigree and then do an example. And then we'll do a couple more examples tomorrow. So let's start here. We use symbols to represent people. This is often done with families, often done to trace how a disease was inherited through a family, things like that. So when we use the symbol of a square, that's referring to a male. When we use a circle, that's the symbol we use for a female. And usually we're sort of tracing a certain characteristic, a trait, a disease. And so if they have that trait or that characteristic, we shade in their symbol. So if we want to show a male that has a certain trait, we would use a shaded in square. To show a female, we would use a shaded in circle. And the way we connect the shapes tells us about the relationship between the individuals. So when we connect individuals in this way, what do you think that means?
Brother and sister.
Like someone had an baby.
No? Bella?
They're different.
Well, they are different people, but
Brother and sister.
what's the reason? Not brother and sister?
They were cousin and cousin.
No. They had offspring. We might say they were married, but you don't necessarily obviously have to be married to have children, and if you are married, you don't necessarily have children. So that represents two people, male and female, that mated, had offspring. What does this connection indicate, Alice? Those are the children of parents. The parents would be here. And so how does this man and woman, how are they related?
They're brother and sister.
Yeah, that shows siblings. Up and across to connect them. So let's look at an example. So we're tracing color blindness in this one. So we have a man that is colorblind. Let's start with that. What symbol shall we use?
Square.
Shaded square. He's married to a woman that is not colorblind.
Plain square.
Plain circle. Connected how?
Oh, by one line.
Side to side. Connected directly to each other. They have children. 3 children. So where are their children going to go? Below. There's a spot for each child. Then you would just extend it. You have another line here. All right, so they have a boy and 2 girls. None are colorblind. So what symbol will we use for the boy? Empty square. And the 2 girls? Yeah, so this shows us their family. It shows us who had this trait, this colorblind trait. So this is a very simple one. It shows just 2 generations of individuals, the parents and their children. We can do much more complicated examples that go back multiple generations. We can get a little more complex in terms of shading. But this is the general way that we create a pedigree diagram. Just to talk briefly about this, color blindness is a trait. Does it mean a person sees in black and white?
No.
Sometimes people think that. It's not that a person's colorblind doesn't just see black and white, like you imagine a black and white picture. What does it mean then? Everybody? Yeah, that they have, they cannot distinguish between certain colors, but they can distinguish between other colors. Does anyone know someone that's colorblind?
Remember there was a rumor going around.
Sometimes. Calvin, you do? Okay, so do you know what the tests for colorblindness look like?
Don't they like?
Isn't there a number in the middle of the?
Yeah, this is an example.
I see it.
So this is a test that could tell if a person has this blue-orange color blindness. because you probably see a number there, right?
Yes.
25. I'll show you some other tests in a minute. But if a person sees blue and orange as, or green and orange as the same, they would see nothing. This is what a rainbow looks like to a person with one of the most common types of color blindness is red-green color blindness, where basically red and green look like the same color. Okay, so here you see the reds and the greens. They all look like this shade of sort of yellowish. Okay, so they can't distinguish it. You can still tell blue from those other colors, but can't distinguish the red from the green. And so here's something. So also, do you know who's affected more often by color blindness? Bella? Men. Color blindness is a sex-linked trait, which means sex-linked traits are traits and the gene for it is on the X chromosome. So it's much more likely for a man to get color blindness than a woman, because color blindness is recessive.
The XX is women,
Yes.
then XY is
Yes.
men.
But then would women have a high
So if it's recessive, how many genes does a woman have to inherit to be colorblind? 2. She has to get it from both parents. How about a man? If he gets one colorblind gene, he doesn't have another gene to cover it up. So he only needs to inherit one of the recessive genes. A woman needs to inherit 2.
Oh.
Because she has that other X chromosome, there's a possibility that could be the dominant one to cover up and give her normal vision.
I get it.
That makes sense.
Here's some other examples of colorblind tests. What's that?
10, 30, 42, 6, 7.
Okay.
Wow.
Can't see any of them?
No, I said I can barely see.
Oh yeah, they're hard sometimes.
Oh,
16,
15,
wow,
45,
45,
6,
8, 6. You're colorblind.
73,
73.
7, 26. There's nothing there. 29.
There's nothing there.
Yes,
There's
there
nothing
is.
there.
There's
29.
There's nothing there.
There's nothing there.
There is
29.
something.
There's nothing there.
29.
I saw
There
it.
is.
I didn't see it. Dang it, I was
All right.
wrong.
Any questions about pedigree diagrams? We'll do some more practice tomorrow. But for now, I have a clue of one I made about with well, I'll save it for tomorrow.